If the jury verdict goes your way, that's justice. If I lose, justice has been defeated. Reverse the situation, and I win the case, justice prevails. It's like beauty, it's in the eyes of the beholder. Truth, justice, all the absolutes, all those things that we perceive as absolutes, actually in the eyes of the beholder. When I was growing up, I was very comfortable in my absolutes. I believed in God, I believed in my country, I believed in my parents. My parents are dead, God doesn't exist, and the country's full of crap. What's left? Truth, by its very nature, is subjective. If you're looking up from the ceiling down on a table, it looks like a square. If you're looking at that same table from the side, it may be a pedestal. If you're looking from under it, it looks like a house. Do I mean that I'm not sitting here right now talking to you? Of course I'm sitting here right now and talking to you. Is that a truth? It's a correct statement of the facts, but is that a truth? There's a difference. The only truth in life is there is no truth. I had a trial in which my client stabbed the guy in the back 7 times. And my defense was he kept backing into the knife. And the jury bought it. My client got involved in an altercation in his own home with a guy he met at a bar. They brought 2 girls back to his house who were drinking heavily, doing a little coke, and partying. Words got into words. The guy came at my client allegedly with a bottle. My client had a knife, grabbed him, stabbed him in the back. 7 times. Or he stabbed him and the guy fell back a couple of times. We're not sure. See, that's the one good thing about murder cases. You have one less witness to worry about. One less witness to worry about. Isn't that right? He ain't testifying.
How can the jury fail to take into consideration 7 knife wounds in the back?
Well, you know something? If you can paint the guy who's dead as a real bastard, they'll let you go with it. The main thing you've got to convince that jury is the guy who's dead deserved to die.
Do people really think like that on a jury?
You think like that. We all think like that. You know, if you stop intellectualizing and stop looking at the facts, you'll see the same way I do. This life is a sweeter, nicer place because that person no longer exists. Growing up in the Bronx was an introduction to people. I've met every ethnic group in the Bronx. I found I can relate to people. I lived on a block where most of the kids were Jewish or Italian. Across the street, the kids were black and Puerto Rican. I have 2 brothers, a younger and an older brother. Grew up on the streets a lot of fighting. That was part of our nature. There was nothing that you ever accomplished in life that you didn't fight for. My father was a house painter, never could vote because he just couldn't pass the literacy test. He could speak 6 languages but couldn't read and write English. Yiddish, Romanian, I still get teary-eyed when I hear the old Yiddish songs. My mother preparing for Friday night dinners, singeing the feathers off the chicken and singing songs to herself. It's a good feeling. I believed in those days. I believed in God. I believed God watched over us, and I felt secure in the knowledge of God. And I started practicing law in the back of a travel agency. It was like a desk in a corner, frontier law. We would keep a bottle of scotch on the table, because if a guy came in with the case, he'd get a shot. It was silly, but a lot of people came in, they tell you their troubles, they have a shot, so you gave a free shot. And when you got a little bigger, you wanted to hustle the case, you didn't wait for the case to come to you, you went to the case. And where do criminals hang out? Pool rooms, bars, clubs, and eventually you moved up the level of clubs until you got the clientele that you really wanted. Billy No Brains was a wannabe wise guy. Big hulking kid, 6'1", 270, massive. Big toothy smile, Dumb as shit. Billy's friend was robbed by a hooker. Billy was going to make it right. The girl gets in the car. She saw the car was moving. She jumped out. Billy just rolled up onto the next girl. The other girl got in and he took off. They found the body beaten to death with a baseball bat. Billy confessed to his friend, "Hey, you see that bitch in that paper? I did it." The friend eventually told the police. Murder. She gave evidence to the police. He was uncircumcised.
This was the girl who had first jumped in the car?
Correct, and then got out. Started cross-examining the girl. How old are you? 27? How long have you been on the streets? Since I'm 13. And how many tricks do you turn a night? Ooh, 7 to 10. 7 nights a week. I did some quick calculations. That's like 60,000 penises you've seen. That's enough to fill Yankee Stadium. Can you tell the difference between a circumcised and uncircumcised penis? Can you tell the difference when it's erect? Yes, I can. And it's your testimony that the penis of the man that you say is my client was uncircumcised. Yes. The medical examiner comes. I said, "Doctor, is he circumcised or uncircumcised?" He's definitely circumcised. Is it a circumcision of long standing? The jury started to laugh. The judge started to laugh. We had to take a break because of the laughter. It worked. The jury was out maybe 10 minutes. Acquitted him completely. Billy thanked me, left the courtroom. In Florida, he killed somebody by stabbing him 24 times. And he was sentenced to death. The sentence was commuted to 10 years. 10 years later, Billy came out, back on the streets of the Bronx. This time he killed his girlfriend, and he did the right thing. He killed himself. And that bothered me, that case. Had I lost that case, had I not made a joke of it, maybe 3 people would be alive.
You believe that he committed that first murder?
Yes? What's the problem there? The prosecution has the entire force of the police department at their beck and call. All the defense has is the defense lawyer, who is Liberty's last champion. If they screwed up, shame on them. I'm not there to correct the state screw-up. I'm not there to help them. They have hundreds of cops. They have investigators. I got me. And that's all I got. I took what they gave us and parlayed it. That's all. I had no difficulty with that. I don't see what difficulty anybody else is having with that. They made a mistake in their records. I took that and blew it up so he walks out of that jail. You give me a pinhole, and I will work that pinhole to move a truck right through it. That's all I want in the case, a pinhole. Is that right? I'm not dealing right. A person doesn't retain me to do justice. He retains me to win a case. And I said, hey, Billy, are you uncircumcised? He said, no. Well, that was my pinhole.
Did she know that she had said the wrong thing?
No. I'm sure she got to know it afterwards. When the word is in your mouth, you're the master. When it's out of your mouth, you're the slave. You're stuck with what you said. And once she said it, I knew I was home free. You win cases, you build them at a mousetrap, people will come to your door wherever you are. They caught my client coming out of a restaurant at 11 o'clock at night with 2 empty gas cans in his possession and a fire roaring behind him. They arrested this guy, George Rossi. And I tried the case, beat the prosecution heads on. The place in question was controlled by a guy named Carmine Tremonti, head of the Lucchese crime family. Mr. Gribbs.
Why Mr. Gribbs?
Because when he was a kid, when he got beaten up sometimes, he said, "Oh man, it's my Gribbs, meaning his ribs." Verdict came in on a Friday night at 10 o'clock. The whole staff was waiting for me because it was a very exciting, hot case. No pun intended. Arson hot. When I got back to my office, there was a phone call. that I should meet him at the Premier East, one of the clubs. There was Carmine and a couple of other guys. Hey, great win, Murray, great win. Band that was on the bar, you know? Started playing the theme from The Godfather, and there's like a sea parted, and we walked in. Very heady feeling, very heady feeling. That was a big win. The word spread throughout the community. Here I'm with a boss of one of the crime families. Shit, I'm hot. I'm the hottest thing around.
Do you believe he set the restaurant on fire?
Probably. What's the problem? I'm not there doing God's work. How many times do I have to tell you that? I'm doing man's work. If I were to wait for only innocent clients, you know how thin I'd be? I'd be the skinniest man in the block. He was leaving his premises not knowing there was a fire behind him. What's wrong with that?
And the gas cans?
Well, he had a problem with his car and he needed gas for his car.
Why were you so excited about having a godfather as a client?
Business. What could be better than business? If you're going to do criminal law, what do you want to work in the streets all your life? It's like you're dealing with General Motors now. What a contract. I like the action. I want to be there. I want to be where it's happening. The Westchester Premier Theater. People would come and buy tickets and make a big fortune for everybody. The mob was looking for the golden opportunity. A certain amount of tickets was skimmed off the top, especially during the Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr. concerts. Eventually, Time Warner bought Westchester Premier Theater. They indicted the wise guys, and they indicted the people from Time Warner. Together. Put them in one case. I had a guy named Murad Necessian, Mikey Coco, Mike the Arab. Real tough guy. We had 13, 14 people on trial. And they came in their suits and shirts and ties, and these were legitimate guys. Even the gangsters looked legitimate. What could I do differently? This is terrible. I can't go to trial this way. I'm going to get lost in the shuffle. Mike, I want you to wear a loud flannel shirt and a pair of overalls. Mike listened. He'd come to court every day. Everybody would look at him and say, Mike, come on, you're making us look bad. Mike said, Murray says I do this, that's what I do. And he would get himself comfortable and go to sleep. Right in the courtroom, sleep. The entire trial didn't ask a single question. My client slept quietly 9 weeks on trial. At the 6th week, I really was bored. I didn't know what to do with myself. My backside hurt from sitting. I ate enough candy to keep my mouth occupied. I read 2 books. Finally, there was a witness that came up, which had nothing at all to do with my client. And the judge said, Mr. Richman, you have any questions? I said, yes, Your Honor. Everybody stood up. I said, Mr. Witness, do you know my client? And almost on cue, one of the jurors said, Counselor, can you speak up? And I said, I don't want to wake my client. They started to laugh. They started to laugh, and they didn't stop laughing. They broke for court, take a break, came back. My client was still standing. They looked at him. They started to laugh again. My client was the only one acquitted. All courtrooms are theaters. I've tried upwards of 97 murder cases, 400 jury trials. I live for the trial. I live for the jury. A trial is a choreography. You start at the beginning with a concept. You can almost orchestrate your very movements in front of the jury. Get concerned, for show calmness and self-assuredness to convince the jury that you're right. It's acting. It's good to know the law. It's good to know the facts. It's better to know the judge. There's a judge on the bench, very tough judge. She looks like Candace Bergen. My client emptied a Uzi at a cop. And I said, Judge, I can't try this case, Judge. She says, well, no, Murray. I'm falling in love with you. I can't continue this work. I'm just in love with you. I cannot go forward. She says, are you really? I stepped back and said, how could you believe me when I said I love you when you know I've been a liar all my life? The jury thought it was hysterical. She thought it was great. My client went to jail. But it was a great story. Stories are my thing, my coin of the realm, so to say. I lived my life around criminals. 42 years in this business. I've met people who kill, who rob and steal and beat other people and take away things. I've never met a person and said, I'm evil. I don't think evil exists in and of itself. An evil perpetrator, he doesn't perceive himself as doing evil. He's just fulfilling his own need at that particular time. It's relative. I was in London with my wife. We were just walking through Petticoat Lane one day. Somebody snatched her wallet. I turned into the masked avenger. I jumped over a baby carriage, grabbed the guy, and knocked him to the floor. I was kicking the shit out of him. They grabbed me off this guy, and they said, why are you hitting him? She had her wallet back, and I realized that I was having a good time. Violence is part of life. That's why periodically our nations need war. Go out and kill a few people, and it makes everybody happy. You kill a couple of people, get a couple of our people killed, and then everybody stops and says, gee whiz, I feel so good. Peace is wonderful.
You tell the story about how many clients that you've lost over the years.
Killed? Yeah.
Well, about how many?
Got to be close to 50. You know, it's a bad way of losing business. Dominic Trinchera, Trini, he was blown away with a shotgun blast. Mike Salerno found him in the trunk of his car in a Jaguar with a bullet in his head. Jimmy Walker with an ice pick in his eye. Paddy Irish, shot to death while sitting in his car. Frankie Russo, with his eyes plucked out of his head. There's Philip J. and Philip D. Manfredi. Those two bodies turned up under the bridge. John Puccelli, shotgun blast. Lots and lots of people dying. Obviously business. Not unusual. I think anybody who's defended guys like this has lost a lot of clients. It's part of the business. They have wars between themselves. I have nothing to do with their demise.
Your clients?
They were. I had a guy named Charlie Off the Wall. Charlie Off the Wall is dead now, so I can talk about him. They also took him out, too. Stabbings, beating. I mean, he would beat anybody up within an inch of his life. He'd kick him and stomp him. I mean, sheer violence. Blind fury. This was a man who needed only a spark to set him off. He did not know anything other than violence.
Did he get him off?
Several times. It was a big narcotics case back in '72. We had a meeting over my house preparing for trial. Joey Lacosa, Joseph Manfredi Sr., the two Manfredi brothers, and a couple of other people. They left my house about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That night, at 2 o'clock in the morning, two of the bodies turned up, Philip J. and Philip D. Obviously, it must have been contemplated while they were in my house. The violence just came too close. My wife said, this doesn't go. You don't bring this home to the house, and she was right.
No mobsters in the home.
Place of business and a place for everything else. And life is snuffed. Then I realized the cheapness of life. The biggest time I realized that was when Trini was killed. One day he was among us, and then he was gone. Here was a guy as big as a house. He was in his mid-40s, strong as a bull, could probably pluck off your head like a plum. Bam. All it took was one shotgun blast, and he was gone. One shotgun blast in the basement of a house. He was alleged to have killed people, sold narcotics, extortionate, gambling, assaults, guns. Whatever crime you can think of, he was probably alleged to have done it. He's a violent man. I saw him throw a guy right through a jukebox one time. Not into a jukebox, through a jukebox. Damn jukebox folded up like a cartoon. Whap! He picked him up and threw him.
And he was a client.
Trini, oh, close as close could be. I mean, you couldn't get a closer client than that. I like Trini a lot. Frightening man. Funny as a son of a bitch, but frightening.
Did you like him in spite of this or because of it?
In spite of it, because he was always gentle to me. I'm not attracted to violence. You know, when I was a kid,
Wait a second.
I'm not attracted to violence. This is a business to me. It's nothing more. I don't want to be in the presence of people getting hurt. I don't want to see people hurt other people. I don't get any pleasure out of that. None at all. I'm a criminal lawyer. I got to deal with criminals. If I was a gynecologist, you know what I'd be dealing with.
So you make the transition from organized crime to gangster rap.
Who needs to be consistent? I don't do rap exclusively, nor do I do Wise Guys exclusively. I'm still doing both simultaneously. I have no problem. I haven't given up my old clientele. Shine was charged with attempted murder, intentional assault, and possession of a weapon, etc. We were looking to negotiate a plea in that case because, one, he came rushing out of the club with a gun in his belt. There was 9 eyewitnesses to see Shine discharge the firearm. You got a bad case. 3 people were injured, 1 shot in the face, a serious situation. We were looking for 7 years. Ladies and gentlemen, you got a picture. We have a club packed with people. Not just packed, but packed like a subway car. And inadvertently he ducks into a man. The man turns around and says, "Hey motherfucker, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna see you in fucking Brooklyn." And then an argument ensued. And the guy next to him takes some money and throws it in his face, just like that. Shine, seeing that, and Shine having been shot at not a month before, had a gun on him. Did he have a right to have the gun? No, ladies and gentlemen, he did not have the right to have a gun. And this is where the movement came in. You show the movement as happened. As you raise your voice and lower it, as you describe it, as you speed up, as you slow it down, move. It's a dance. We beat the top 2 counts. Is he getting jail time? Yes. Shine shot people. He's alleged to have shot people. Shine's unhappy, but he knew that he would be convicted. We all knew it. It's a question of how much time. That's the facts. 21-year-old boy. And if he wasn't so famous, nobody would give a crap about him. On August 29th, 1977, I was indicted by the federal court. It was alleged that I had purchased a building, sold it to this narcotics program at a profit.
A felony.
Felony? 5-year felony. Serious business. They put an informer on the stand who never met me and said, on November 26th at 8 o'clock, I was at a certain restaurant and he was there with me. It was in his diary. And sure enough, he produced a diary. And there was my name written boldly there. Trouble is, November 26th was the greatest day of my life. I was waiting for a return of a jury in a very self-same federal court. They were there till 10 o'clock at night. In the same courthouse, in another case with a different judge. But I was smart enough not to tell the government before we went to trial, because they would have had this man change the date. Been there, I've been down that block. The second date in question, December 13th, I was actually having lunch with one of the prosecutors on my case. Only 2 days tied me to these events. And both days were bogus dates. Obviously, the jury acquitted me. You want to be scared? Listen to those words, United States of America versus Errol Morris, Murray Richman, or what have you. Those are scary goddamn words. My wife had a breakdown at that time. My life was a shambles. And when I have a nightmare, I dream of that jury coming back. It scares the shit out of you. Prosecutor, 3 of them sitting at the table, saying that you are a criminal, and that jury looking at you and watching every move you're making. Are you on trial? Not only was I on trial then, but in every trial I've ever had since. So I know what it means to feel that way. I know the fear that goes through you, the feeling of diarrhea that comes over you as you lay in bed at night sweating and ask, what's going to be with my family? Who's going to take care of my kids? Am I on trial? You're absolutely goddamn right I'm on trial. Every single time I try a case. And if I wasn't, I'd be one shit-ass lawyer. truth, justice in the American way doesn't really exist. I would have been happier believing, as I once did, that good would inevitably triumph, that truth and justice will prevail.
It seems to me, though, that you do believe in truth. You have faith in juries composed of people.
I do believe. I just am not sure what it is that I believe. It is not as clear-cut as it once was. I used to be able to draw a line and say, that's good and that's bad. I can't draw that line anymore. I remember the last day school let out as I became a lawyer, counting down the minutes. I have another hour of class, 59 minutes of class. And here it is, 42 years later. And yet it was like yesterday. I look at myself in the mirror and I say to myself, who's that old guy over there? I'm still the same inside. I just can't believe that I'm closer to 66 than I am to 16. My father told me years ago, he said, Moshe, life is a cholam. A cholam means a dream. That which was can never be again, and it's just as much of reality as the dream you dreamt the night before. It's of no consequence. I didn't know what the heck he meant. It's amazing. When I was young, I thought my father was stupid. As I got older, I was amazed how wise he became. And it wasn't he getting wise, it was me getting wise to my father. Didn't speak English, and I was embarrassed by his accent as a kid. But he really was a wise guy. Withdrawn, make it a wise man. A wise guy is an entirely different thing.